More Rebel Clash gameplay for you. It is Copperajah VMAX up against Falinks. Welcome back, everyone, to more from the Sable Eyes. Here again with Jordan. How are we doing, Jordan?
Not too bad, thank you, Mitch.
That is good, and we're here yet
Blake
again.
seems excited.
He's very excited. He won the coin flip. He's always very happy to win coin flips there. So Blake will be going first, but he's got a mulligan. I'll be playing the Falinks deck that we featured on the channel yesterday, and Blake is going to be taking a look at a ultra defensive Copperajah VMAX deck. So yet again, Jordan, I think I'm being thrown under the bus here with my baby Falinxes, but I could potentially half hit a VMAX every turn and win that way. We'll see how we go.
I mean, maybe. We already know that Lucario Melmetal offers quite a lot of bulk to decks. We've seen that card quite a few times in the past, and I don't think we've ever seen it with a card quite as bulky as this Copperajah VMAX. In fact, I don't even know if we've ever seen a card as bulky as Copperajah VMAX in general. It might be the highest HP Pokemon we've ever had to deal with realistically in the history of the Pokemon trading card game. And when you can take that 340 HP and then reduce damage done to it by 30 damage for the rest of the game, and I imagine that we're probably going to see something like a metal frying pan or maybe metal core barrier for Blake. So one of those many different defensive metal tools that metal decks have to work with.
Yeah, so that would mean that if he does play Frying Pan, which I think from memory he does, we can get a Copperajah VMAX with effectively 400 HP, which is a pretty big number, Jordan, one that we might not be able to deal with. And Blake's got a relatively good start here. He's got a a capture energy on the Lucario Melmetal in the active, which he's happened to start, so he's used that to search out a Copperajah V, and then a Quick Ball gets Zacian. I think that is the Frying Pan going down there onto the Copperajah, and then an Intrepid Sword.
Man, this deck's playing all the best cards. We already know that Zacian is an insane card. It does have less HP than Copperajah VMAX, and of course, once fully powered, it actually only does 10 less damage than the 240 damage that the Copperajah does offer. So it's actually a worse card powered up than a Copperajah VMAX, but obviously the fact that it's a basic Pokemon, costs 1 less energy, and has an incredible ability means it's still a pretty good inclusion in this deck. Having a look at your side, we see the energy come down onto the Falinks V and the Cynthia. So this is also a deck that requires quite a lot of energy to set up, so I imagine we won't really be seeing much early pressure from you in this game.
Yeah, missing out on the baby Falinks here with the twin energy means that I'm unlikely to be getting an attack off. And ironically enough, Jordan, if I do have that baby Falinks in play, then the Diancie will actually reduce the amount of damage that I do by 10, because Diancie will give me plus 20, which is 10 less than the 30 that another Falinks would give me. But in the end, just having a pass there, a bit disappointing, because it means that if Blake is able to get a metal energy onto this Lucario Melmetal, he'll be able to full metal wall and remove my energy from play as well, which would be quite annoying.
Even if he doesn't use it to discard the energy, it's still just an incredible effect, taking 30 less damage every turn for the rest of the game. We're just talking about the maths of these Falinks decks. Going to be struggling to get those big numbers. The Falinks V is definitely the most damage that your deck can do, I imagine, with 230 damage thanks to that Diancie Prism on the bench, and then potentially another 4 if you ever get your Fighting Dojo into play, but that Chaotic Sword is going to make it pretty difficult to even get that extra damage from the Fighting Dojo, which could have potentially been an extra 40 damage if you go behind early, which it looks like certainly could be a possibility. We see a lot of energy coming down on Blake's board, and he hasn't even used his GX attack yet.
Yeah, exactly. There's 2 on that Copperajah already, a manual attachment this turn, as well as a metal frying pan. And now we're seeing a tag call for a Guzmahala and a Cynthia Caitlin. We actually discovered something in this game, Jordan, that Guzmahala gets a little bit of a buff in this set, in that now you can use it to effectively search for basic Pokemon, since you can search for that capture energy. So, those good cards just get that little bit better.
Well, that's really cool, actually. I mean, obviously it's not going to be broken because you can't use it on the first turn. Like if you could use it on the first turn, it would be insane. It'd be like Bridget levels of good almost. Is that a Sonya we see?
It certainly is. So Sonya here.
I remember what that card does.
Sonya searches for 2 basic Pokemon or 2 basic energy. So
I remember now. It's the same as a really old card, Roseanne's Research, that was back in like the Diamond and Pearl era, I believe, or the Platinum era. So that's a really cool card for this deck, allowing you to bench out your Falinks pretty quickly. So you're almost at max power now. You've got the air balloon to retreat into the baby Falinks. So you can start attacking now with that twin energy. You've got 4 Falinks on the bench plus Diancie, so you're only doing 10 less damage than max, which I believe is a total of 140 damage, but we have to take into consideration that GX attack, so it's going to be 30 less damage for a total of 110.
Yeah, exactly. It's not quite the maximum that we could be doing, but 110 is still respectable, and as long as I can continue to attack with baby Phalanxes here, I should be okay, but we will probably see some extra stuff come down onto Blake's side of the field here. He's opted to not search with the Guzmahala here, but he has got that new Galarian Meowth, which will be able to discard 2 cards from hand to find a Berserker at some point during this game, just to boost up the amount of damage that Blake can do, and he does have the metal frying pan in hand as well. So now, despite the fact that I've got all of those Falinks in play, the most damage I'll ever be able to do is going to be around 80, I think, from memory.
And that's going to be really tough, especially since Blake is starting to draw a lot of cards now. Opting to just keep going for Intrepid Sword rather than actually attacking and using one of these knockout options that he's slowly getting powered up on the bench. We see the Stadium coming down as well, so hopefully you'll finally be able to buff your damage output at least a little bit, but it's going to be really hard now that he's got GX attack plus that metal frying pan. I don't know if your deck's playing Tool Scrapper, but this could be a pretty good matchup to be able to remove your opponent's tools, I imagine.
Yeah, be very happy to be able to do that, but alas, there's not anything else realistically I can do. I've got 2 fighting energy now on that Falinks V, so we could potentially see a attack from it soon. Let's put another 80 damage onto this Lucario Metal, which is pretty solid. I'm still on, we're still on even prizes, so 6 prizes each. As long as I can continue to attack into this Lucario Metal, that is the most important thing. And the interesting thing as well is that I believe that Lucario Metal is on 180 damage. It's kind of tough to see. It might even be a little bit more.
190, I think, maybe?
190, that seems right. So if I am able to attack with a baby Falinks next turn, even if I am only able to attack into this Lucario Metal, I will take 3 prizes. So that seems pretty good. It's in Blake's best interest to get out of the active now.
Yeah, exactly. It was definitely potentially a bit of a missed opportunity from Blake there. I would have loved to, or not for your sake, but I would have loved to see Blake pull off a Mallow and Lana on that turn. He is playing the Tackle engine, so I'm surprised he didn't have access to it on that turn. Maybe just wanting to save that for one of his attackers. But the one thing that is going for you in this matchup, obviously, is that prize trade. It looks like he does have to switch into the attacker. So if that was a Mallow and Lana instead of a switch, I imagine that Blake would have been in a very commanding position. But he is at least getting a new attacker into play, which with 3 Angie is going to be enough to start taking knockouts on these basic Pokemon. It does 100 plus 100 more damage if your opponent's active Pokemon is a basic, so that's definitely going to be a knockout on pretty much every Pokemon in your deck, I imagine.
Even with the extra damage reduction from Falinks V at the moment, yes, 200 would be enough.
Yeah, so you're basically going to only have to win this game due to the fact that your deck is favorable in the prize trade. Just try and take 2 triple prize knockouts onto Blake. Obviously, he's got the tag team Lucario Metal, which is very easy to knock out on the bench there. If you just get a Boss's Orders plus an energy, that will be 3 prizes for you. And then you're only 1 knockout away on this Copperajah VMAX from winning the game, but I say 1 knockout away, but that's a pretty hard knockout to take.
Yeah, exactly. We've got that 400 damage cap on there now. The full metal wall is in play, as is the metal frying pan. So this Copperajah effectively has 400 HP, which is going to be quite difficult to deal with. I do have a Call Energy here, though, and a Boss's Orders, so I will be able to gust out that Lucario Melmodel, but the really disappointing thing here is that I didn't manage to get the knockout with the baby. If I'd managed to do that with the baby, I'd feel like I was in a really strong spot, but now Blake can realistically just take a knockout straight onto this Falinks V. At the moment, he won't be able to do it with the first attack, so he could either attach an energy, or he could use that Galarian Berserker, which he's already actually got in play, so he'll be able to take a knockout that way.
Does the Falinks V's ability work on itself if it's in the active, or is it only work while it's
that's a good question. I'm not sure, but I presume that it's on it. I presume that it's when it's on the bench. I'm not sure.
Well, either way, it doesn't matter, because whether the active ability is triggered or not, Blake
yes,
is going to
Blake will be able to take that knockout. Yes, so
even without needing to attach to the active. So he's going to be evening out the prize cards after this turn, which is definitely not good news for you, because you've got a lot of work to go for still. You're going to have to take out this Copperajah VMAX, and I imagine that Blake is very quickly going to be charging up and hopefully pivoting into that second Copperajah VMAX once the first one's taken a bit of damage. So I feel like your best opportunity is just to try and rush down this Copperajah in the active and try and knock it out before he gets a second one powered, or maybe to gust it up later on to close it out for game. But you're losing all of your energy on your Falinks V this turn, which means you're only going to have access to attacking with those baby Falinks, which just don't quite do enough damage, I feel.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really tough, and that reset stamp doesn't help. So Blake is going to be in a real commanding spot here where he'll be able to just take a knockout on this Falinks V, and then I will potentially have to hope that my top decks are good. I'll have 4 cards to try and get something going here. But even if I do manage to get an attack off, even with the baby Falinks, the most damage I could realistically do is 80 at the moment. So I'm going to need to find that tool scrapper at some point as well.
I wonder if, I mean, it's going to be hard to do, especially since you've already used a boss's orders there, but I wonder if it would be easier to take a knockout on a non-GX like the Berserker and the Zacian V instead of just taking out the one Copperajah VMAX. It might actually be like less attacks that you need to declare to take the 3 prizes in that way. But obviously you're going to have to play boss's orders almost every turn if you ever wanted to try and win the game with that strategy. So it's probably going to be more feasible to just take out the active. You have the counter game there, which is actually pretty nice because it means you don't have to waste one of your twin energy. But I still feel like you're going to have to eventually power up another Falinks V to have enough damage to close out this game.
Yeah, that counter gain would be good there, Jordan, if we were both not on 3 prizes.
True.
Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a misplay that I made in the moment there, thinking that I had a really, really great hand off of that reset stamp, but unfortunately, no, I'm just going to have to manually retreat into this Diancie and hope that I can get myself an extra turn. But that means Blake is just that much closer, and that boss's orders is going to pretty much wrap the game up now. He's going to be able to knock out a Falinks V, and then anything that happens on my side of the field is going to be counteracted by one of the 2 fully powered Copperajah VMAXs that are on Blake's side of the field.
Alright, look on the bright side, at least counter gain's active now.
That's true, well, but now I've got the twin energy, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, I almost would have said if instead of, like, because you had to sacrifice something that turn without attacking, obviously. If you'd attached to that Falinks on the bench with the counter gain on it, then I would say maybe you'd have a chance, but Blake had the boss's orders anyway, so even that strategy wouldn't have done anything. I feel like this is probably game over for game 1 unless you can think of a pretty insane strategy right now that I'm not seeing.
At this point, I'm just going to attack for 110. I managed to find the tool scrapper, so I could at least get an extra 30 damage on there, but wasn't going to happen. Blake being able to get those massive 400 HP Copperajahs into play meant that my poor little Falinxes couldn't manage the job, but it's going to be okay. I'll be going first this time, so hopefully we get a bit of a better start. We can cruise into a good attack with my baby Falinxes pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would say, like, in that first game, neither of you had a super slow start. You were both getting energy attachments every turn, but I wouldn't say either of you had an amazing start either, because it did take Blake a solid 2 or 3 turns, I think, before he was able to actually pivot into an attacker and start taking prizes. And of course, you ended up missing an attack for the first turn or 2 as well. I think you had to attach a fighting energy to a Falinks V instead of just going for a turn 1 attack with the twin energy on a baby Falinks. You're going to have 2 turns now to potentially go for a first turn of attacking with that baby Falinks, or maybe even just get extra energy onto that Falinks V. It's just going to give you a little more time to start applying pressure, because it really feels like energy attachments are the one things that's going to make your deck potentially a little too slow.
Yeah, this is a bad start though, that Diancie Prism. We already talked about how it makes the maths kind of awkward, but it does actually, now being in the active, it's kind of given me almost nothing to work with here. I've got 2 acro bikes, so I can at least look through the deck a little bit more, find an extra couple of cards, and having to discard the twin energy there is actually really bad. But I managed to get the capture energy, which I know is the only way that I can get Pokemon into play this turn, because I can't play any supporters, so I'm actually opting to go for the capture energy here, attaching it to the Diancie just to find another Falinks.
Yeah, I noticed that you had to discard, I think, a capture energy off of the first acro bike. I was a bit surprised to see that, but obviously you had another one in hand. But man, I wish that you were able to find a better Pokemon to actually attach that What's it
I
called?
would the
Capture
the
energy, did you
capture
say?
energy. Yeah, I would prefer to have attached the capture energy to either of the other two Pokemon in this deck. It only
Yeah.
plays 9, and I have to start the Diancie Prism, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I feel like either of the other potential starting Pokemon would have been a much better option for you to open with here, obviously. But you have to make do with what you get, and you do still have the opportunity to potentially start pulling off an attack on the next turn with that baby Phalanx and Twin Energy. But Blake's just going to go real, or I want to say aggressive, but it's not really aggressive. He's going real defensive, I suppose, is the better way to say it. Going for that GX attack first turn, even though your deck is quite an energy attachment heavy deck. Your energy on board do matter quite a bit because you don't have energy acceleration. So it is a bit surprising to see Blake go for that GX attack so soon, knowing that you are that he's not going to have access to denying your energy later on. But we saw from the last game how busted that GX attack is. I think Blake just wants to get it out the way and just say, well, I don't care if you have energy. Your attacks aren't going to do enough damage to beat me now.
Yeah, I'm just going to reduce it by 60 anyway. I have got the bead here, so I've played the bead, get the fighting energy on there, and then switch into the active. So as long as I can find some Falinks, I should be able to do something. Unfortunately, I can't add that Diancie damage unless I get some Pokemon, but it looks like it's just going to be a call for family here from me, which is really unfortunate. We've got 2 Falinks V coming down. That means that I'm going to be able to survive a Lucario Metal Steel Fist, but apart from that, there's not else really going on for my deck at the moment. It's all falling apart.
Yeah, I actually didn't even know that the Phalanx had the Call for Family attack there. That is a pretty useful attack to have in a tight situation like this, but it's definitely not what you want to be using if you can avoid it, especially since, as we saw in the last game, your just start was just slightly inadequate. I feel like if you'd had a slightly faster start where you were just getting the perfect draws and attacking every turn you're realistically able to, you would have had a chance there. But you're basically giving away any chance of early aggression here and just giving Blake the time to set up exactly what he wants to. To be fair, Blake's start also looks pretty poor, but you need to beat him before he draws out of it. It looks like he might be drawing out of it now.
Yeah, exactly. He's actually using the Guzmahala here to find that capture energy to bring out a Copperajah V for next time. So that is showing off that neat little synergy there from Guzmahala. And then Blake declaring Steel Fist, traditionally 450, but in this case only for 10, and will accelerate a Metal Energy to the active. And I finally managed to draw out of my dead hand. I've got a Professor's Research now to actually be doing something. Hopefully we can get going here. We've got the dojo to replace the stadium. We've got another Falinks on the bench, so I'm actually going to be able to do some damage here.
Yeah, if you can fill your bench with Phalanx, you'll be doing pretty close to the damage cap that we saw last game for the 140, but obviously we have to keep in mind that he's got the Metal Frying Pan and the GX attack on board, so he's going to be taking minus 60 damage, and 80 damage just doesn't seem like it's going to be enough, I don't think. I mean, it's not even 3 hitting, but if you can get rid of the Frying Pan, you can at least potentially pull off a 2-hit in the next few turns. Obviously, that relies on Blake missing cards like Mallow and Lana, but it seems possible that you can at least take out this Lucario Melmetal pretty quickly without going too low in prizes. It's going to come down, obviously, to how quickly Blake is able to pull off his second attacker.
Yeah, exactly. There is that 80 damage. We can see Blake now. He seems to be struggling as well. He's got the 4th energy onto Lucario Melmetal, so he's going to be able to heavy impact, and that is a Marnie now. So he'll be able to draw some new cards, a bit of disruption as well. He'll draw 5, I'll draw 4, and we'll see what comes off of it. Blake obviously desperately looking for another Pokemon. There's a Duraludon, which we haven't actually seen in action yet, and more importantly, a Copperajah VMAX and a Tag Call, so he could probably grab himself a draw card like Cynthia Caitlin, and then maybe, it looks like he's going for another Lucario Melmetal there, so maybe something to discard as well.
And Blake actually has access, obviously, to the heavy impact from Lucario Melmetal this turn, which does 150 damage, and you've only got 3 Phalanx V in play, so if you had a bench space for a 4th one, once again, that pesky Diancie screwing you over here, I believe you actually would have survived the hit from the heavy impact now, but due to only having 3 in play, the heavy impact is doing 10 over the amount of damage it needs to do because it had 10 damage on it already. On the bright side now, you do have a bench space, so you can potentially bench a 4th Phalanx V on this turn. You've got the quick ball, so if it's in there, that is an option you can go for, and that would actually prevent the Lucario Melmetal from getting a knockout unless Blake finds a Berserker, but he's got that Meowth on the bench now, so I don't think even that's going to be enough to save you.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a little bit awkward if Blake has the cards in hand, which I believe he does, to discard. It just depends whether he's willing to. He can find that knockout, but it's one of those things that is quite good about this Falinks deck is that it can be quite annoying to get knockouts. Imagine having to do 150 damage to knock out something that has 90 HP. Sorry, 170 damage to knock out something that has 90 HP. That's quite frustrating. But at the moment, it's pretty frustrating for me because I desperately need to find something to get some energy. Looks like I've got the counter gain and a fighting onto the Falinks V, so I could be in a position now where I look like I actually have something to do.
Yeah, this is definitely exactly what you needed from this turn. But unfortunately, Blake's deck able to do exactly 170 damage on this turn, so you're probably not going to get the room to breathe on this turn. It's interesting that he's playing a Tool Scrapper there. I imagine he's maybe just playing his hand out for whatever reason, because assuming the Galarian Berserker is in deck, he should have access to the knockout, regardless of whether that tool's there or not. It looks like he's going ahead to search for it. And it is in deck, so interesting Tool Scrapper play. I guess he was just thinking out of deck because he doesn't think it's too important in this matchup, which is certainly respectable. It definitely could be relevant next turn if you can find a new counter game. Then you could potentially power up that Falinks V, and that would definitely get the knockout on this Lucario Melmetal, if I'm not mistaken.
It certainly would, even though the Lucario Melmetal is losing 60 damage, or it's reducing 60 damage. Falinks V with 230 with the Diancie will be able to take the knockout, so that's going to have to be my only route of play here, and that could potentially be doable. I mean, there's no backup attacker from Blake here, which is really good, so we'll see if I can get there. I've got the Tool Scrapper myself, so I'll get rid of the Frying Pan as well. We'll just both play Tool Scrappers that don't really matter, just to get rid of
Tool
them.
Scrappers I feel are a bit more important than Blake's, because Tool Scrapper with Frying Pans are definitely not something you want to deal with.
Exactly, so hopefully we can see a couple of energy here. I'm going to need to find Counter Gain or potentially Karate Belt here to get the attack off, which would be good, but I am behind, so it is going to be doable. And for the first turn in a long time, Jordan, I might actually be able to get Dojo into play without it being bumped immediately by Chaotic Swell.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it doesn't matter so much on this turn, but maybe with Dojo you could even get a knockout with the Baby Falinks, so that could potentially give you another out to gain the knockout. Looks like that's not what you're going for. I think you're locking into trying to find the Karate Belt with that Twin Energy.
I think so, yeah. So the Twin Energy provides one colorless energy on V and GX Pokemon, so I can get the benefit from that. But I remember this hand was essentially, I have Cynthia, double Twin Energy, and then a couple of other useless supporters. So I'm desperately looking for a fighting belt here, a Karate Belt. If I can manage to get it, that would be great. I have a Acro Bike here. I discard the Sonya because the card off of the Acro Bike was Karate Belt. So we are going to be able to get a knockout, but the question is it going to be enough?
Well, the difference between this game and last game is when you knocked out the Lucario Melmetal last game, Blake already had, I think, one, even close to two Copperajah VMAX powered up, but now he'd need to find at least one Metal Patch plus an attachment to power up that Copperajah, and I'm not even sure if it would actually get the knockout. We would probably actually need to find clarification as to whether the ability works on the active, because right now your Falinks has effective 220 HP. Also, the Berserker means that it wouldn't matter anyway, I don't think.
Yeah, the Berserker means that it's irrelevant, but it is worth double checking. So I will look that up. Let's very quickly. All damage done to your Pokemon with Falinks in their name done by attacks from your opponent is reduced by 20. So it does.
Looks like it does work in the active. That's cool. So Blake's just going to hit with that Oblivion Wing Duraludon. That's what I like to call it. At least.
Oblivion Wing is a good enough name for it.
That's how I think of those 30 damage plus accelerated basic Genji to one of your bench Pokemon. It's going to do 0 damage, but once again, because of those Falinks, you're taking 80 less damage, and he's only doing 50 damage with that Duraludon. So your Falinks is going to be able to pull off another attack this turn. Unfortunately, you don't have access to the Karate Belt anymore, I don't believe. So you'd actually have to attach an extra energy. I think, have you attached the Twin Energy to the bench already?
I already have, because unfortunately Falinks V's Giga Impact means that I can't attack with it this turn. So regardless of whether or not I had the energy, I would not have been able to attack with it. So I think here the plan is to try and switch into the Baby Falinks, but from memory, I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to do enough damage to knock out this Duraludon, because even though I'll be doing something like 110 damage, I think this Duraludon has slightly more HP than that, so it might not even be worth doing.
I think it's probably got about 130, but regardless, due to the GX attack, I don't think you're doing 150, 160 damage. That's more than Falinks could even do, even if you had Fighting Dojo in play. I don't think it would be enough to get the knockout. To be fair, though, I don't think getting the knockout is very important. I mean, just like last game, I'd say your best realistic way to take your last 3 prizes is just going to be taking out that Copperajah VMAX on the bench. So maybe just hitting into this, making sure you don't have a V in the active to be knocked out is a good play. And then either just slowly knock out this Duraludon or maybe get a Boss's Orders to bring up that Copperajah VMAX if Blake doesn't bring it into his active himself. Looks like he's going to be tag calling for double Mallow and Lana, so you're probably going to need a reset stamp at some point in this game to win, because I don't think you're ever going to win the game while those 2 cards are in his hand.
Yep, exactly. It's pretty rough. So I am going to need to remove one. He does actually play one of those Mallow and Lana here to retreat into the Copperajah. So there's one Mallow and Lana gone, but there's also another baby Falinks knocked out. So it's a little bit awkward. Now I'm going to need to find a way to attack this turn, and without the Karate Belt, without the Karate Belt being active, I'm not going to realistically be able to get that Falinks V attacking. I can at least use Marnie to remove that Mallow and Lana from the hand, though.
Yeah, that's definitely good, especially since you know it's going to be on the bottom of the deck, so probably not going to be finding access to it next turn unless Blake's drawing to a tag call. You found the baby Falinks, but not going to be attacking over this turn. It seems just settling for the basic attachment to the Falinks V and getting rid of that Chaotic Swell once again. May as well sacrifice the Diancie, sorry. Not Diantha, that's a supporter card.
That's alright, it's all the same. We know what you mean.
You could theoretically sacrifice the Falinks instead, just because it might be worth keeping the Air Balloon on this Diancie, but I don't think it really makes a difference, especially when Tool Scrapper is in the format now, so I imagine that Blake's probably going to be just taking a knockout on one of his single prize Pokemon, unless he has Boss's Orders, in which case the game might be over once again. But nope, he's just going to have to take the knockout on the active. So your Karate Belt is active once again, and you will be able to swing into this Copperajah VMAX. But I don't see how you can get enough damage to get the knockout.
Yeah, no, at the moment my only other card in hand is an Ordinary Rod, so I was kind of like, oh, am I able to get out of this hand? I don't think so. And I'm just going to swing in for as much damage as I possibly can, and then hope that Blake misses an energy. But he finds it, so that's going to be the last 2 prizes, and Copperajah manages to get across the line in this one. Yeah,
just too much HP to deal with. I feel like you were close once again, like one more hit from a Falinks V, and he probably goes down, but it's so hard to deal with these Copperajahs, especially when Blake has access to Mallow and Lana, which you can barely even use in that set.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit tough, but that's okay. It's definitely a cool couple of decks to look at. Thanks, Jordan, for coming along.
No problem.
So, Falinks not able to get across the line there. Copperajah just having too much HP to deal with, and that Lucario Melmetal using its GX attack is very frustrating, but I think we did see that Falinks is able to at least get its strategy off, so it'll be interesting to take that one onto the ladder in a week's time and see how it goes against some other decks. Thank you everyone for coming along. If you've enjoyed the content, then feel free to subscribe. There's a button just here to let you do that. Over here there are some videos that YouTube thinks you'll like, as well as a playlist for more of our pre-Rebel Clash testing. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at @theSableEyes_YT, and apart from that, we'll see you all next time for more from the Sable Eyes. Bye.